Sorry, Pochin.
Is the Justice Secretary content that her department is spending over £500 million every year locking up criminals who belong in other countries?
Yeah.
What I'm content about is the fact that this government has deported more foreign national offenders than the previous government. What I'm content about is we've accepted the findings of the Gork review, and we will be bringing forward the early removal scheme threshold from 50% to 30% to make sure more foreign offenders are eligible for removal from our country.
Peter.
Sadly, some of my constituents have experienced a double blow, not only having defective cavity wall insulation installed, but also being pursued for adverse legal costs by firms such as SSB Law. Ministers have previously confirmed that the Solicitors Regulation Authority have opened an investigation. Will the Minister provide an update on this investigation and meet with me to discuss how those affected can get redress? Thank you.
Once again, I'm very sorry to hear about the impact that the firm collapse has had on her constituents and many others who are affected by the SSB collapse. As she says, the Solicitors Regulation Authority is completing an investigation into the collapse. Disciplinary notices have been issued to a number of individuals, and further decisions are expected before the summer. I'm happy to provide her with a written update as that investigation is concluded.
Julian Smith.
Mr. Speaker, I refer the House to my registered voluntary interests. Litigation finance plays a key role in the legal system in the UK and provides opportunities for postmasters and others to take cases to court. The Civil Justice Council has just published its report on the sector. Can I ask ministers when the government will respond to this report?
I thank him for his question, and I thank the Civil Justice Council for their work. He will understand that we've not yet had a chance to fully digest the report, but we anticipate acting on its recommendations in fairly short order.
Select Committee under Slaughter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lord Ponsonby told the Justice Committee in February that the government will set out a public position on reform of wedding laws, including humanist marriage, in the next few months. The Minister said much the same today, but when will this happen? And will it include reform of current cohabitation laws, which disadvantage millions of couples?
I thank the Chair of the Justice Select Committee for that important question. He will know that our manifesto committed to reforming cohabitation law, and we will be bringing forward that reform shortly. The Law Commission's report made 57 recommendations to reform of weddings law, including enabling non-religious groups such as humanists to conduct legally binding weddings, and we will be bringing forward information on our package of reforms shortly.
Lockhart.
Mr. Speaker, recently I attended a service marking 40 years since William Heenan was murdered by the IRA for being a Protestant. While we honoured his memory, the self-proclaimed First Minister for all in Northern Ireland was visiting the newly erected statue of IRA terrorist Bobby Sands, glorifying a movement responsible for the cold-blooded murder of men like William. Will the Minister agree to meet with me and innocent victims from Northern Ireland regarding the review and the improvement in the glorification of terrorism legislation that applies to Northern Ireland?
I think the Honourable Lady will be aware that is primarily a policy area for our colleagues in the Northern Ireland office, but I will make sure that we raise those issues with them.
Final question, Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, a man was convicted of a public order offence after burning a Quran outside the Turkish embassy. The judge said the fact that the man was attacked is proof that he was guilty of disorderly behaviour. This is grotesque and means, in effect, we have a blasphemy law. Does the Justice Secretary believe that this should hold, or will the government back my bill to put an end to all of this madness next week?
Not have a blasphemy law. We are not going to have a blasphemy law in this country. He will be aware that in that specific case, I believe it's going to be subject to an appeal, so it'd be inappropriate for me or any other minister to comment on the details of that matter. But I'm sure once all other channels are exhausted and we have a final resolution, we will be debating those matters in detail in this House.
Let the front benches change over. Right, let us come to the urgent question. Shadow Secretary of State Victoria Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs if he will make a statement about Thames Water's financial situation.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Right Honourable Lady for securing this urgent question. I want to begin by making clear that Thames Water remains stable and the Government is carefully monitoring the situation. Customers can be assured there will be no disruption to water supply. Thames Water is a commercial entity currently engaged in an equity raise. KKR pulled out of the company's equity raise process earlier today. As Thames has said, the company will continue to work with their creditors as part of the equity raise to improve their financial position. There remains a market-led solution on the table. We expect the company and its directors to continue the process underway and fix the financial resilience of the company in the interest of their customers. I want to be clear that the Government is prepared for all eventualities across our regulated industries and stands ready to intervene through the use of a special administration regime should this be required to ensure the continued provision of vital public services. The situation facing Thames is taking place within a wider context. Only last year we saw record levels of pollution in our rivers, lakes and seas. It is clear that our water system is broken. We've already passed legislation so the regulator can ban undeserved multi-million-pound bonuses that so outraged the public, and we've further strengthened accountability through the introduction of up to 2 years in prison for polluting water bosses who break the law. We've increased the regulator's resources and launched a record 81 criminal investigations into water companies and followed the polluter pays principle, so companies that are successfully prosecuted pay for the cost of that prosecution, so further prosecutions can follow. We have worked with the water companies to secure £104 billion of private sector investment to rebuild our broken water infrastructure. That means new sewage pipes, fewer leaking pipes and new reservoirs across the country as we work to end the sewage scandal that we inherited from the previous government. I launched the Water Commission under Sir John Cunliffe to outline recommendations for a once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform our water industry and ensure it delivers the service the public deserves and our environment needs. Today, Sir John published an interim report setting out the Commission's preliminary conclusions. The Government will respond in full to the Commission's final report in due course and outline further steps to benefit customers, attract investment and clean up our waterways. Whether it's Thames Water or other companies serving other parts of the country, the era of profiting from pollution is over. This Government will clean up our waterways for good.
Victoria Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for granting the urgent question today. Just to correct the Secretary of State, when he refers to private sector investment, in fact, what he's referring to is the bill increases that each and every one of us will pay, £31. So when he talks about private sector investment, in fact, he means bill payers' investment. Now, 16 million residents and bill payers will be concerned at the news this morning that private equity firm KKR have pulled out of their rescue deal with Thames Water. According to a source close to KKR, one of the reasons they pulled out was because they were concerned about negative rhetoric directed at Thames Water and the rest of the industry in recent weeks by the Secretary of State and other ministers. In other words, the Secretary of State and his ministers have talked themselves out of this rescue deal. I'm bound to say, Mr. Speaker, if only they could do the same thing with Chagos. Now, firstly, on which date did he discover that KKR were thinking of pulling out of the deal? What involvement did he have in the phone calls over the weekend between KKR and Number 10 Spads to try to rescue this deal? I ask because in recent weeks there have been briefings to the press that he's considering temporary renationalisation. The Treasury have apparently instructed him that he will need to find up to £4 billion from DEFRA's budget to cover the cost of this manoeuvre. To put that in context, the entire farming budget for this year is roughly £2.5 billion. So can he explain the options he's just referred to, and do they include a plan for temporary renationalisation? Which budget